It's Armoured Clash week, and we have 3 amazing starter sets to be won. We'll pick 3 winners, one from the YouTube comments, one from the OnTableTop.com comments, and one from the Cult of Games members, so you guys get an extra chance to win.
Hello everyone, today I'm going to be taking a look at the new Armoured Clash 2-player introductory set, The Battle for Singapore from Warcradle Studios. Okay, so what do you get in the Battle for Singapore introductory set? Oh, that's stuffed full of things. So we have the Crown and Empire forces, big enough for a skirmish game. There are also 2 resin commander upgrades, set of industrial terrain, your counters, tokens, quick start guides. And if we open it up, we can take a look at it in more detail. Okay, so there's so much in this box. It barely fits in the box, which is always a good sign for any starter set. You always want to get plenty of value, and this has that in spades. So we have 2 sets of dice. Get into that when we talk about the game. We have 2 little baggies which contain our resins, a quick start rule, our crown map, second quick start rule, the campaign guide, and then so much plastic it doesn't actually really fit in this box. It's squeezed in. So on the top we have some of the modular building sprues. There are 2 small, 2 large. We have 1 Empire, 2 Crown vehicle sprues. We have infantry, that's the Empire, and that is the Crown. All our bases. There's the other building sprues. Tokens, and more tokens, and the widgets and objectives. So let's bring the camera in and take a look at these in more detail. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is the infantry regiment. The important thing to note with all of these is 2 sprues are required to make a full set. So these components will essentially give you half of the number of models required for a unit. So 2 sprues together give you a full unit, and then incrementally you can expand your force from there. So they're always sold as pairs, if that makes sense, regardless of the set you're buying. So we have, as you can see, some vehicle and artillery pieces in the center, and then 2 sets of infantry figures on either side. If I flip them over, you can see them a little better here. So we have a mixture of riflemen, some of the sharps. We also have, sharp rifles. We also have the Spitfire Rocketeers, which are 2-part models, sort of lurking around the place. Flip us over. And on this side we have the sappers. And in the center, you have some additional components. So depending whether you're making the artillery section, which can be built as either the Sterling Troop Carrier or the Glamis mobile gun, you can go either way here with the top covers. And then the gun section here Then you've got your artillery, 2 guns on the sprue. So we'll have a wee look at these built up and talk about some of the regiments in a bit more detail. First up, we have the full unit of British rifles. So this is the rifle platoon. 6 models, and a model in this game is either a base or a vehicle or a gun. It was described to me as if you pick something up, everything that comes with it is a model. So simple enough. We take a look at our little command stand. All of your units are led by a officer, even if it's a tank unit or transport unit. And the way you designate those is either give them a spanking paint job, or there are a ton of little flags and banners on the sprues, so you can designate one of them, and the troop follow them and sort of take line of sight from them, that sort of thing as well, leading from the front. So good level of detail on them. For all of the infantry, they're fairly easy to put together. The only one that requires any thought at all are the Rocketeers, because they are 2-part. Everybody else here is a 1-piece model. Into one of those stands will go your commander. So this is the overall commander for the army. In this case, I believe it's Benedict Arnold III, and he has his drummer with double loudspeaker following him, and he's in some form of mechanized, weaponized bath chair. Resin pieces, nice level of detail, and look like very clean casts as well. So he will just take up sort of 3 spots on a rifle stand. So you've got an overall battlefield commander, which is important. After the rifle platoon, we have the Drake field guns. Nice easy build. Couple of crew to the rear. There were some options for crew. And when you look at the builds, they have 2 crew down the side and the guns moved over. So you just have little base fillers to take off the empty slots that the infantry aren't going to be using. We have 4 of the sharp rifles, so a more elite, precise rifle section. With a touch of the Antipodean on them. They all are wearing slouch hats. So I don't know if their backstory or lore behind them means that they are Anzacs of some description, but nevertheless, they're them. And then we have the Sappers, who are Scots. Again, 4 models or bases worth of these. Some of them are digging in, entrenching, so guys with shovels at the ready, other ones actually scooping shovels of dirt over their shoulder, and others still carrying either ammunition, mining equipment, or boxes of ammo to the front as well. And the last of the infantry sprue is the Rocketeers. So the Spitfire Rocketeers. You can't have a good steampunk style game without a Rocketeer jetting through the air. Obviously this 1870s, so you're not going to have your Spitfire markings and round rolls on them and that sort of thing. But if you want, nobody can stop you. So just to give you an idea of scale, I know it is a 10mm game, but if I bring in one of our rifles, because sometimes 10mm is not 10mm. In this case, you can see that from foot to eye level, these are 10mm to their awesome pith helmets. Okay, so that is all of the infantry, but not all of the infantry sprue, because we also have 2 AFVs, so armoured fighting vehicles. In this case, it is the Sterling Troop Carrier. Now, you would make 2 of the same from the sprue. I have made 1 as the Sterling, just to show you that, which is your troop transport. Canvas covered top. And again, tons of detail, lovely scroll work. Simple build, tracks onto a body, and the body is composed of a front, a rear, and a midsection, which you can see right through the bottom. So that's your troop transport. However, there is a infantry support gun, an SPG type thing, which is the Glamis mobile gun. And again, same idea. The two sections, or the two tread sections, go either side of a central chunk, which again is front, rear, middle, and then with an inserted spotter, and then the gun itself plugs in the top. So two fairly robust, chunky pieces of infantry support for the crown. The second sprue type is I'm calling it the AFV sprue. It contains your armoured regiments and also some of the more serious artillery pieces, although there are still infantry types on these sprues, or in the case of the crown here, you have a set of cavalry along the top. And then you also have some of the components for the walkers, so the dragoons around the bottom. But the main meat of the armour sprue is, of course, the armour itself. So this allows you to build one of a specific chassis type that then can be used as either the Galahad or the Tristan as a transport, like an assault vehicle. Also, we have, like I say, a large artillery piece here, which can be built either as the Mordred or the Boars. Now look at the other side. So with all of the sprues, they are all numbered to help you locate what you need to find on the sprue when you're building. And there's a good level of detail. Some of the sprue gates will require a bit of finessing. So for example, in the center of these cavalry, this top sprue gate actually terminates slightly inside the body. So you have to clip it off and then shave that flat. So it's just one to watch out for. But let's have a look at these all built up. So our crown armoured regiment, and at the centre of it is your medium tank, the Galahad, which can be built as either a Galahad breacher, which is a main sort of battle tank. Build the core central section first, and then the track sections slip over it on either side. I've added a command flag to this one. Smokestacks to the rear. So that's your Galahad. You can also build one as a Tristan transporter. This has a reinforced front, more like a stocky wagon, and then your sort of assault ramp at the very front of the same, so it can drive right in there. Otherwise, it's a identical build idea. Uses most of the same components, including the front gun section that you can see here. Is still in there. It's just masked by this big buffer over the top. Moving on, we have artillery pieces. And again, there are two variants you can build. So you can either build the Mordred heavy artillery or the Boars bombard. So this is the Mordred. I will suggest when you build these, the whole side assembly with wheels are one piece. You really want to have your infantry crew glued in place first. It will make your life much easier. So if you are painting them in situ, I would leave the two sides off, or at least that side that impacts you the most. Get your crew painted, paint the wheel sections and the like, and then just stick them on because they're very easy to do so. A relatively simple build, despite the fact it looks like it has a lot of working parts. Some unusual sections when it comes to putting them together, where you just have to angle it correctly. So I would dry fit it before you add your glue. The Boars bombard has this spectacular filigreed gun shield at the front. Again, same main components, although it does have this sort of roller system to send the mines that it's pelting forward. You can see here in the assembly instructions, this piece is angled like this, and there's just a little arrow pointing down for that sort of plate. But there's 2 grooves on the legs of the gun, so it can only really sit in one place. So that's 2 heavy artillery pieces to go alongside your tanks. There are, however, some light pieces in the force. We have some cavalry, so the horse guards, beautiful plumage, a very distinctive horse guard helm, and on their mechanical steeds, although the urge to paint them grey and run at your opponent is huge. There's also a musician as well. And then finally we have the Black Watch. So there are heavy dragoons. In this case they are actually a walker section. So here you can see the Black Watch with its generator for shrouded, which means they don't have to rely on actually having cover. They bring it with them. And the alternative build for the dragoons are the assault variant. They come with a lighter weapon and also a chainsaw close combat weapon. I will say I did find the legs quite finicky. That may just be my age and shaking. Build says to build the pilot with his 2 halves of his crew compartment around him first, and then glue the legs on. I found it was easier to glue the leg to the side, and then once they were both ready and dry, then lock them around the actual pilot. Your mileage may vary on that one. All right, moving on to the Empire then. This is the infantry sprue, a wealth of pieces on here for your Imperial force. Across the top we have some of the automata, the terracotta warriors. There are also a set of Green Banner Guard at the bottom here. As I say at the bottom, this is not a solid row of Green Banner Guard, so follow the numbering on these, because interspersed between them you'll find Rocketeers and also Dragon Breath Alchemical Fire. There are some little Tashi launchers, these little bike affairs here. They can also be built as a flak launcher, which are quite cute. Bul Nabang Winged Infantry, so a aerial type of trooper as well. Likewise, these are also all numbered, so when you're looking for components, they should be relatively straightforward to work out who goes with what where. We'll just point out all of the Green Banner Guard, well, not all of the Green Banner Guard, but some of them have their pavés shields moulded on, and for the others that don't, they are here. That's the infantry. Let's see what they look like when they're built. All right, so the Crown Infantry then. We're going to start with the Resin Commander leading the Green Banner Guard. He actually has a terracotta automata as a bodyguard, which is a nice touch. Still give him a standard, mind you. And he just slots into a Green Banner rifle. Green Banner Guard platoon. They actually have something more akin to a short-range carbine. Really good defensively, those big shields, and then quite close quarters, and a ton of models to remove in a unit as well. So compared to the British rifles, there's 8 rather than 6 in a unit. After the Banner Guard, Tan Shi Light Launcher. So a little 3-wheeler with a gun on the back. It can also be made as a flak gun. It just replaces this barrel tip with a little 3-barrel flak device as well. Handy if any Spitfire Rocketeers happen to be jumping around the tabletop. Then we have our Yan Huron Terracotta Automata. So unlike the infantry, these are big boys, and they are, what's that, around about 15 mil to eye level. So half again as tall as an infantry model. So people will know what's coming when these start crossing the battlefield towards them. Good level of detail on it as well, with the terracotta warrior style armor on them. Be interested to see how people paint those up. We have a couple of smaller platoons. So there's a Green Banner rocket platoon. So 4 models strong rocket section. with their loaders behind them. And then there's also a flame team. Again, 4 models strong. And by models, I mean 4 bases. Don't forget a model is a base. So these are a more specialized weapon type that supports the standard green banner. So they really lay into the alchemical fire feel for the Empire and the big masses of infantry coming towards you. Not all of the dragon breaths are actually ignited. There are a mixture. And finally, for the infantry, we have the Bulnabang winged infantry, so equivalent of the Spitfires. Although unlike the Spitfires, these are mixed, so you have some flying, some on foot. All of the wings I found were completely interchangeable with these, so you don't really have to worry what's going on with what. You can just take to the skies and go into seasoned objective. So that's our Empire infantry sprue. Alright then, so taking a look at the armoured regiment for the Empire. So we have some of the Tongshi Lion automata on either side. In the centre is your Fangun medium tank, which can also be built as a Yan Shu. Then we have the Feng Bao heavy launcher, which you can see component parts here and here. And then in between, we have a set of Jindoyun steam bikes, so cavalry regiment. And finally, up at the top, we have a set of Jazils. And again, everything numbered, and a really nice set of detailed pieces. So let's see what they look like when they're up and running. Okay, so having built up the Empire Armoured Regiment sprue, we have our Fangun medium tank, possibly everybody's favourite. The unusual ball design with the tracks all the way around, I think make it a favourite. So this is a mobile medium tank with a really unique look. 2 variants. Obviously, you would build them both the same, but in this case, it can be built either as the Yang Shao flame tank or the Fangun regular sort of tank. So whether you want to go substantially anti-infantry or anti-tank, I suppose. Very simple build on these as well. So nice design where you're just layering on the treads to the central section and then adding these ball socket turrets to either side. They are supported by some artillery. You can make 2 Feng Bao heavy launchers or 2 of the San Li heavy artillery. So these are your Sen Bao 3-barrel artillery piece. Big chunky piece of work. A lot of build on the barrels, but the rest of the body is fairly simple. Not as enclosed as the Crown variant. So it's a bit easier to access the figures on the reverse. The launcher for more of the rockety attacks with these skids on it. Again, really captures the ornate design aesthetics of the Empire. It should make painting it up really interesting. On the armoured sprue then, they are supported by the Lion Automata. So there's actually 2 variants for these. The Tongshi and the Ryushi, possibly. I'm going to get all of these names wrong, but I'm safe in the knowledge that so will most people at home. So like 2 massive temple dogs, or in this case 4 massive temple dogs, I suppose, from the unit. You can have them prowling the battlefield. And finally, we go back to infantry types. Like the Crown, there's both cavalry and another infantry unit. Here we have the steam bikes. So unit 5 models for these. Very simple gun shield on the front and you're done. So fast jet bike type affair to support your Green Banner Guard. And alongside those are a set of Jazils, pavés to the front, sharp shooting long range Jazils at the rear. Again, a very Nice set of figures, very evocative with big shields on them, which you'll see across the Green Banner Guard, reinforcing their defensive nature. So that is the Empire Armoured Regiment. Moving on to the ancillaries then. We have the modular building sprues. This is the sort of wide and flat sprue, if you will. Again, you get 2 of each, so a pair of each will help you build what you need to build. This contains, or stars, should that be? This massive, almost landing pad-like, or possibly launch port rooftop. Big section. Then we have a double high wall section and a double width wall section with a door on one side and some form of venting on the reverse. There's also on this sprue a whole host of additional pieces. So these are add-on details. So we have crates and barrels. We have crane sections. Over here we have antenna, smokestacks, and all around the outside are actually the components to build the buttressing for the corner sections, and then these pieces are used for your crenellations along the top, and it is combined with the light sprue. So here we have the smaller light building sprue. Has 5 roof sections in the center, and then the rest of the components are your wall sections, which can be built either vertically, horizontally, or squared off. So if you think about it, you can have 1, 2, 3 sides and a roof, and then that butts onto another 1, 2, 3 sides and a roof, and you end up with 2 cubes that you can then put together, hiding the missing wall section, if you will, to have a building 2 by 1, or 2 by 1 in verticality as well, I suppose. Will require more of your wall sections, but you can also then use that larger piece that we see. Again, good level of detail on these, and the sprue itself, the external parts of the sprue are actually the buttressing here, so we can see all of those. So let's take a look at some built examples. We've built one up as a 1-story low squat building. With a serious amount of turret defense on top. A big ramp to go in the front door. The rest of it is just chimneys. There's a really nice level of detail on these. Very industrial looking. I'd be curious how they would look if painted up in a sort of a red brick, sort of standard Victoriana style, mixed in with the greys. So that's fairly simple to build, as is this. A 2 up, 1 down. Again, simple build, nice construction. I put a couple of cranes on top, one to lift from ground and one to lift from the second, or I suppose in this case, 4th floor roof, so they can transport what they need to up to the top. And with this kit, you can probably make 3 buildings of this size, so it's relatively small, a part of an industrial area, but it gives you a slightly different play area to mess around in or to use them for objectives, that sort of thing. Okay, so coming back to our templates and widgets, we have our measuring rulers. So a hinged set in inches. We also have the arc/turning circle for the some of the bigger or slow-moving vehicles that you will encounter. There are a set of 4 objective markers, and the little button nose is actually a turn counter with this little widget here. In fact, you get 3 little widgets. So presumably, in case at some point you break one or lose one, you have replacements. You can see here we have the little turning arc, so inch increments across a 90-degree turn, essentially, or up to a 90-degree turn. The measuring stick is hinged, and with the hinges, it actually allows you to measure 90-degree arcs for arcs of fire, which is handy to have, especially if you're trying to outflank a land ship. They are double-sided, so it is a 20-inch long measuring stick butt, and there are 2 in the set. If you take the second, instead of giving it to a friend, you can measure all the way out to 30 inches instead. And then neatly fold it down afterwards. So measuring stick come arc of fire. And then there's the little objective markers, who are, what's that? Around 50 mil round? Yeah, about 50 mil round. Numbered on one side, blank on the other. Presumably some of the scenarios, setups, and clashes will have hidden objectives. Other ones will designate specific objectives for your games for scoring. Your tokens, there are actually 4 sheets of these in the box, 2 for the Crown, 2 for the Empire. These contain things like activation markers, disordered markers, shattered, retreating, if they're going to go on to a stand and shoot sort of reaction, and the reverse of them are damage counters for larger vehicles, heavy tanks, land ships, that sort of thing. So you'll have plenty of those, 1 for every unit you'll be fielding. Then we have the Quickstart rules. So A5 size. They are only 20 pages long and introduce you to Armoured Clash in the dystopian age. So what you need to play: models and units, the stat card, how it breaks down, and you'll find those in things like the Orders of Battle online at dystopianwars.com, and then basic mechanics of the game itself, which all seems very well laid out. Here we have an explanation of the dice, which you get 24 in the box. So blanks, misses, glancing, strikes, and heroic strikes, and how they work. So a very short but well executed step-by-step guide. The Crown with their mighty sovereign land ship defending themselves, and then a training ground scenario at the end as well. The Battle for Singapore itself, a chunkier book. It is 46 pages long and goes into a bit more information about the dystopian age and Armoured Clash. So play the Quickstart first and then come back to this. Explains how to prepare the battlefield, what the box contains, your Resident Commander upgrades, so you can tell who's in charge of the force on the table, and then the narrative Battle for Singapore. So even though it's an introductory set, there is a really nice narrative behind it, and a set of, don't want to go too spoilery, five scenarios, and then it finishes with your unit cards. So obviously, the nice thing about this is it gives you a basis to start with. Everybody's learning a game fresh right now. And you can then see what they suggest you build Obviously, there's a few units that have options, your heavy artillery, some of the medium tanks. But for a lot of the others, it's essentially fixed. So it should be very easy to get a force onto the table in quick fashion. The final bit of paper in the set then is the Armoured Clash map. This is a geopolitical map for April of 1874. From the Crown's point of view as well. So the map itself is beautifully illustrated, 19th century style, sort of etched illustration. And on the reverse is the Crown poster that we've seen in the double page spread. But otherwise, this opens up to give you a full map of the world in, I think, A2 size. And you can see the various areas, who owns them. So whether it's the Crown themselves, the Commonwealth, the Alliance, or the Sultanate, or over in the Americas, you have the Union as well. So nice feature to have. Nice if you're planning to play campaigns on a big scale, or just put on your wall. If you want to take your introductory set up to the full game, there are some optional extras you can pick up separately. So we have here Armoured Clash dice. Obviously you get a good amount of these in the introductory sets, but if you feel you need more, you can always pick these up individually. There's the Command and Conquest deck for the full game. You'll need one of these decks per player. So this is a 60 card deck, and the cards themselves are dual purpose. And by that I mean each card has got a conquest and a command option on it. So if I just open these up. So these serve three functions in game. First off, they are your initiative values and also your morale values for taking morale checks. So you can see they all have a value in the top corner. Highest number, generally good, although if you're doing morale, you'll want to pull a low number. They also have a variety of options or tactics that you can use with the conquest side. So here you can see if you play this card when you annihilate an enemy unit with an aerial attack, you score 1 VP. If it was a basic unit, 2 VPs if it was reinforced, or 3 if it was a full strength unit. So depending on the size of your game, you may want to use these cards for their victory point value. However, if you do that and you're scoring victory points, then you're not getting the command side of the card. And here you can see if you were to play this card during a turn, you do it after rolling the die for close quarters attack, and you can reroll any blank results, which can be very potent indeed if you stack your positive modifiers correctly. So you could end up rerolling pretty much all of your misses. When the deck is being played through, you have a hand. You can use the cards at any time for either command or for their conquest attributes. However, you can only use the deck once. And because it is also used for morale, your opponent will be milling through this when they give you suppressions and disorders, disrupting your units. Once your deck is completely emptied the first time, it gets reshuffled. And at that point, it is only usable as the morale and initiative values, or actually morale values. I don't think you can draw cards even for your initiative, which means you've got 60 cards to play with. And then from that point on, you're not going to have the option of drawing new cards. So your hand will dissipate. You won't have command options. You won't have conquest options. It changes the game significantly. You can score little and often with these, or use their more valuable command side to actually bring the pain, if that's the correct term. The last thing you may want to look at picking up is the rules. This is the full rule set for Armoured Clash. The introductory sets have a Quickstart version. This has the full 155-page rulebook, as you can see from the index here. It's not all rules, don't panic. So the book itself is broken down into the core concepts for the game itself. Also the clashes, which are the term for scenarios in Armoured Clash, and the different sizes of games you're going to be playing at. So some of this will be repeated, like the basic core concepts, but then after that you get into the nitty-gritty of the actual gameplay, so your unit statuses, discipline tests and how to use the cards, things like that. If we go a bit further into this here, you'll see some examples on terrain, how it will impact your games, and also, if I skip on, there are a set of different clash types, and the clashes are split in a variety of ways. So first off, your force scale is going to either be skirmish, battle, or cataclysm. Depending on the size you're playing, it will limit the maximum size units can be bought for your army list at. So in a skirmish, you're only ever going to be using small units. In a battle, they can be reinforced. And in the cataclysm, they can be the expanded versions of such. Also, there's a set of clashes that are narrative-based and a set that are more competitive, sort of tournament-style based. So depending on the type of gaming group you're in, you may want to mix these up a bit. Then we also have the background for the dystopian age in here as well. So from the Singapore incident itself to the various factions, which will all be coming in due time. So like I say, it's not a 150-page rulebook that is just all dense rules. There's the background, history and stories, and each of the various factions are generally written in game terms, and there's an in-world narrative thread, I think is the best way to put it. So you may see that some of the reports may come from the Prussian military academy asking for their up-and-comers to write a report on the crown, for example, and then it's all done as an in-world version, which is a really nice way of building the world and the narrative if you're unaware of the dystopian age and the other games within it. So there we go. The full rulebook ends with your reference and quick reference charts as well, which is always handy to have, and then the full index at the back. So if you fancy taking your games of Armoured Clash from your initial introductory set, then this is the way to go. Pick up the rules, grab the Command and Conquest deck, and explore the dystopian age. So there you have it, a monumental set for all your 10mm dystopian age fun and games. A really good introductory set for 2 players, unlike a lot of other intro sets. It actually does contain 2 of everything, so you're not sharing. Even 2 quick start guides. The only thing they've given you a single one of is the Battle for Singapore campaign, where one person will be reading it out to the group. And as you can see, the miniatures in it are absolutely fantastic as well. So really interesting concepts behind it. I particularly like the idea behind the army building, where the boxes are always a whole set of regiments. So there's no dipping in and out and having to pick up another box for half a unit or whatever it happens to be. You're always buying whole numbers of sprues, essentially, as units for the tabletop. So it's, yeah, really good, solid introductory set for people who want to get started into some 10mm gaming. Let me know what you think below, folks. I'm going to move on and see what else is coming for Armoured Clash.
It's Armoured Clash week, and we have 3 amazing starter sets to be won. We'll pick 3 winners, 1 from the YouTube comments, 1 from the OnTableTop.com comments, and 1 from the Cultic Games members, so you guys get an extra chance to win.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.